everyone, what's up? This is Simon from DevTactic back with a new tutorial, and today is the hottest day in Germany this summer, so I'll be heading back to the sun soon, and now I will try to create a little video for you. I'll put up my sunglasses. So we're gonna use the Ionic version 4 beta in this video. Perhaps some things might have changed once this video is released, therefore take care of some elements. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're gonna integrate Firebase, especially AngularFire, which is currently in the release candidate 11 version. Hopefully this will be a stable version soon, but everything should work fine, and we will build a to-do list. We can add, we can remove, we can update to-dos, we will use the Angular router, so many cool things. Let's do this. I've already created a blank new Ionic 4 app, and with the beta version you're gonna have to add -- type Angular to get your well-known Angular project. And the next thing we're gonna do is install Firebase and AngularFire 2 inside our project. So once this is finished, we can add a few more things. So as you can see, we already got the home page and the app routing stuff in place in the beginning, and therefore we only need one additional page. So create a page, and as you might already know, you can also specify a path now. So this will be under pages. Normally you could also have the home page in here and regenerate it, but I'll just leave it like it is. And also we're gonna use a service which was previously the provider. So the service is now in our services folder. Awesome. What you need as well is of course a Firebase app. I've created one, and then simply go ahead and click add Firebase to your app. Copy this little block here and go back. And because we use Angular 6 in the project, we can now use the environment and simply say Firebase. Perhaps we should wrap it in an object, and there we go. And now we can use our environment Firebase to set up AngularFire. So go to your app module, and in here, first of all, add import AngularFire module from AngularFire 2. So this is the basic module we need. It's more or less like always, simply call initialize app, and then we need the configuration file, which we can now simply import. So environment, really problems to type this, from / environment. There we go. And then .firebase, and then we got our configuration inside the Fire module. Now we also want to use the Fire store. So if you go to database, you can choose between the original real-time database and the new Cloud Fire store. We're going to use the Cloud Fire store, and if you start your project, you will see a different screen. There should be a button to create the new database. So click this, and also there's a selection between rules, so you can either start it as a locked database or a public. So pick the second option, because this will give you rules like this. So basically anyone can write and read the data. Of course not the best mode for production, but for our case, without any authentication, this is what we need. Also head over to authentication and sign in method and make sure that anonymous is enabled. I actually don't know if we need this if we have no rules, but anyway, to test things out, it might be good. So back to our app, we need as well the Angular Fire store module. So those are in separate pages, packages. This should be in Firestore, and this one goes to our array as well. And now we got access to the database. Okay, we've created the page, and this page is automatically added to our routing. So I hope you already have a basic understanding how this routing works. And what we're going to change is, let's first of all say this is the details route. So if we add or select to do, we are going to this path. And especially if we want to update one, we pass the ID to the new page. And you can simply do this by appending the ID like this here. And later inside the page, we have access to the root and the root snapshot. And then we can extract the ID from the URL and load this with our service. Okay, so we got the path in place, and now perhaps let's start with our to-do service. So first of all, we of course need database AngularFire store, and of course not the module, but simply AngularFire store. This will be the reference to the database. Perhaps you should do it correctly. And also I'm gonna add a little interface just to see how you can add TypeScript typings to your Angular Firebase files. So then we need a private to-dos collection, which is more or less the reference to our Angular Firestore collection. And this will hold elements of the type to-dos collection. And then inside our constructor, we can set this to database collection of types to-do. And we will simply call this to-dos. That's of course up to you how you want to call your collection inside Firebase. Now the collection is not enough. We also need the actual to-do elements. And for those, we can use an observable, and all my observable imports are wrong. This is the closest. I'm not completely sure why. So this will be an observable with an array of to-dos later on. And I'll bring in a little snippet to make things easier. So we set our to-dos in the beginning to-do collection snapshot changes. So this will listen all the time to the changes on the database and the documents. And what we do is we pipe some actions. Of course, import map from RxJS operators. Okay, so we map all the actions we get back just to access the ID of the document. Normally, this would not be included if we would leave it and close the snapshot here. But most of the time, you need the ID of the object simply to update or remove an object. So therefore, do it once in here, map the actions, and then later on you have the right objects to perform all the operations on your database. Awesome. Now we need many functions. Perhaps I'll just copy them in because they're really boring. So let's go through them one by one. Get to-dos simply returns our observable array with to-dos. No problem. Get to-do is if we want to view one to-do and the details. In this case, we use our to-dos collection again, which is the reference to the database. And this is not necessary, but it's nice to have. So add a little typing here, but with the doc, you can access single documents in the database. And we use the ID, which the object will have, and then value changes to get the actual value of this document. Update to-do needs, of course, the new to-do object and perhaps the ID of the object. And then again, we use doc at the position ID and then update the element with the new one. To add a to-do, we just have to call the add function on the collection. So previously in earlier versions, this was push, I think, with the other database. So now you add the document to the collection. And to remove it, again, we call doc, which gives us access to a single document, and then simply call delete to delete this node. Okay, that's our to-do service. Looking nice, routing in place, environment in place, app module ready. Let's head over to our homepage. And in here, we actually don't have to do a lot. So first of all, we will have a to-do array and then a little constructor with private to-do service ToDo Service. Yes, the import should work like this. And if you want, you can also add OnInit in here, which is created for other pages automatically. So what's wrong? Only two is used as a value here. Okay. Okay, strange error. So go ahead, ng on init, and in here we call our ToDo service. Come on, it's too hot in here. Sorry. Get ToDos, and this is an observable, so we subscribe. And one thing I will tell you in a second. So this dot ToDos equals the result. You could also use this observable directly and have the observable here and then the async pipe in the view. But actually for me, this results in the same action called twice, and then the list was somehow strange. You got duplicate elements. So therefore I'm now just subscribing and setting the to-dos, which works just as fine. You just don't have the async pipe in the view. If you want, give it a try and see if it now works for you, but for me it wasn't working. So in this view we will also have the remove function, and this is again, if you have built the service nice, just one simple call and we pass in item ID, that's it. So let's heat over, and also perhaps I'll bring up Ionic Surf in the background already. So let's see. We call this Ionic Firestore, and come on, thanks, nice tab, should work hopefully. Back to our app. So let's add a little color. This is still the same, I think. And inside the view, we will add an ion list, which basically contains of items, but we will also use ion item sliding. I think still the same syntax like before. Let item of to-dos, and then each sliding item has the ion item, which has some information, and then the ion item options. And now we say side end, which is basically to the right of the element. Okay, to fill all of this, let's make this a bit faster. Okay, ion item, lines, inset, and we want the items in the list to be tappable. So we simply add button in here, and normally we would attach click and then call the next page, but we can also directly use the Angular router, and therefore we say the router link for each of those elements is an array. And first of all, we need to go to /details, and then as we have specified right here, we can also add another ID. So simply use item.id, and then the correct path will be called inside our app. So in this element, let's now finally copy something. We have a label with item task and created in the date pipe. Ion node, I think, is actually also new. It's like a little badge at the end, nothing really fancy. And for the ion options button, we can add the ion item option, and here we actually use the click event because we want to call our remove function with the current item. So there we go, sliding finish, list finished. Now to add new to-dos, we need a way to go to the details page, and you could have a button at the top, but let's use the little fab button. And here the syntax also changed a bit, but it's more or less self-speaking. So vertical alignment bottom, horizontal, and so at the right bottom. And the button, just like we had here with the router link, also has a router link. Now without the brackets, because we just want to go to /details. We have no parameters like here that need to be resolved. So if you use it with brackets like these, you can have values inside that are calculated then. but for now this works. And router direction simply gives the router an idea in which direction the navigation happens. So this is for the animation that takes place, and of course we push, so its direction forward. Okay, I think that's actually, is this all? Let me just check. Okay, I had another little something I added, which is basically if our to-dos are empty, I used this cool Ion skeleton text element, which shows some skeleton text, and I can show you in a second. Just add some more CSS so we can have 2 lines of the skeleton in here, as you can see. And if we save everything, yes, we see this cool skeleton text, which is a nice way of showing something else. You might have seen this in the Facebook app or other apps. They're not always using a loading indicator, but show this how the content will actually look like. In our case, it's not completely how it will look like, but still wanted to include this to show you something. And we go over a little array of just 1, 2, 3 or 0, 1, 2 to create 3 of those little elements. Okay, so we got the list. Of course, we got no data. And if we hit the fab, we're in the blank details page, as you can see from here. And we can go back to the home page, of course, as well. So now to finish everything, we only need to implement our details page and the HTML. So perhaps let's start with this one. This page will use an ng model to add new to-dos. So of the type to do, and to test things out, you can also just test 1, 2, 3, add some values, create it, add. As you can see, I'll do this again in a second. No get time. Because we're using the interface to do, I get code completion for things that are properties, and I can easily use them. Pretty cool to have an interface like this and objects. Anyway, we of course also need our, what was the name? ToDo Service, exactly. Import is fine. And now we're gonna use the router. So this is the activated route, and in the ng on init, we can now load the parameters we have specified here and pass through the other page. And how to do this? Good question. So let's say to-do ID is null in the beginning, and then we set our to-do ID to this .root.snapshot params at the position ID. So exactly what we specified. And if we got this .to-do ID, only in that case we want to load an existing to-do. Otherwise we simply start with a blank new to-do or with this fake to-do. So this .load to-do. Okay, we need as well a new save to-do function, and I think we just need those two. So for load to-do, we call our ToDo Service, and we have implemented the get to-do, of course, where we simply pass in the ID. So you see, if you structure your service right, build it in the beginning, it's super easy to use it later on. And we will, of course, also get something back, and now we can set our to-do to the result. Make sure, that's why we added this. If I would remove this, the return value of this would not match our to-do, because now we're returning an object and this would give a TypeScript error. So therefore, make sure that you got to-do here, then you have no TypeScript errors. And also, sometimes you want to add a loading, which is a bit different with async and await. It looks like this, and as you can see, expression is only allowed within async function, and to resolve this issue, simply say this one is async. And of course, private loading controller, import is wrong again in all places here. I'm not sure why node modules are added all the time. Anyway, nope, just loading. Come on, Simon. Dismiss. Okay, that's the loading, and for the save, same again, but this time, of course, saving to do, present, and then if we got our to-do ID, we don't need to save, but to update. And in this case, if we have no to-do ID, we need to add the object. So in this case, add to-do with our to-do. And then whatever comes back, not really interested in, loading, dismiss. And then we want to automatically go back to the previous page, and therefore we can still use the navigation controller, but it works a bit different. It's the same name, so private navigation controller. Navigation cancel. No, that's not what I was looking for. It's actually nav controller. There we go. So private nav. What is going on today? This.nav, and now we got consume, go back, go forward, go root, and we simply want to go back because yes, we want, of course, to go back to the home page. There we go. And for the update, it's actually more or less the same, but as you can see from the signature, we pass in the to-do and the ID. So this is our to-do ID, and then still loading, dismiss, go back. Actually, I think everything might work now. Let me bring this to the side so we can perhaps see a bit more. So we got the skeleton, everything is empty in the beginning. And of course, we haven't built the page. I'm not sure if you're interested in more coding. I'm not, because it's getting warm here with my lights on. So let me bring this in. We got the header, we got the toolbar. We need to manually add the back button now. So therefore, button slot start to the left and the back button. And if you want, you can also specify a default href to go back to the previous page. Then inside, just a list, Ion items inputs with the ng model connected to our to-do details page and the save to-do Ion button. Really nothing special in this view. So let's finally see how all of this works. As you can see, we can immediately start on details and got the back button. So if I would navigate to details again, you see I still have not the real navigation stack, but the default href allows us to go back. So test 1, 2, 3 to save, saving to do, and there we go. This was actually a bit better with a live database in earlier versions. So now we see to-dos, there's the unique ID created by Firebase, and we see our object, which we can slide. So let's add some more, and the ID, save this, and now we see, cool, it actually works. Okay, so one more, and we got the 3. Now we can insert into one, and from the URL we see that this seems to be the ID, which is actually true. So let's update this one, save it, and back. It was changed in here, and it is immediately reflected in our list, just because, or is it because we're subscribed, we're getting back the new result, and we set it to our array. Now finally, we need to make sure we can delete objects. So go ahead, and you see the red transaction going on here. So open works, check, and check. And there we go, back with the skeleton view. Alright, so that's how you can connect your Ionic 4 app with AngularFire and Firebase. We've used the new Firestore database, which I think is recommended for future databases, which works more or less like a NoSQL database with documents. So really great way to structure your app. I hope you enjoyed the video. Of course, make sure to subscribe to my channel below and also check out the ionicacademy.com. The resources inside will be updated for Ionic 4, or new videos on Ionic 4 will be hopefully added soon. I really enjoy Ionic 4. I hope you do as well. There are some new elements like the routing stuff and logic, or some elements in the HTML. But in general, it's super fun, just like we're used to from Ionic. So see you inside the Academy. Have a great day, and I'll see you inside the next video.